The film opens sometime in the future. The United States has fallen into a second civil war, with Texas and California seceding and forming the Western Forces Militia, and Florida creating its own alliance. The nation's three-term president makes a speech over the WF, taking a severe hit from the Loyalist states, calling it a major victory. Photojournalist Lee Smith watches the speech from her hotel room in New York City while she sees a bombing occurring downtown. The following day, Lee joins her colleague Joel as they go downtown in the middle of a protest. A younger journalist, Jessie Cullen, gets struck in the face in the middle of the chaos, and Lee goes to take care of her and give Jessie her fluorescent vest. Lee then notices a woman running into the crowd with an American flag and ducks for cover with Jessie, as the woman charges in and suicide bombs the crowd. Once the noise has settled, Lee and Jessie take pictures of the aftermath. Lee and Joel later join their mentor Sammy at a hotel party for other journalists. They are planning to drive through the country's war zones to make it to Washington, D.C. for an interview with the president, even though he considers the press to be enemies. They know the trip is going to be dangerous, and despite his age, Sammy insists he join them to go to the front lines in Charlottesville, Virginia. Jessie overhears and approaches Lee, as Jessie considers her to be her idol and wants to get pictures of the war as it is unfolding. That night, as Lee takes a bath, she starts thinking about all the bad things that she saw around the world, where people gets murdered and explosions set off while Lee takes picture of them. The group gets ready to head out the next day, with Lee seeing Jessie joining them. She and Joel have a not very discreet conversation about both Jessie and Sammy being with them, but Joel assures her they will be no trouble. Then the group takes off to their destination. They drive through multiple abandoned vehicles. After driving for some time, they stop to fuel up, which they are only allowed to do in exchange for Canadian currency. One of the gunmen leads Jessie away, where Lee starts to get worried and follows. He brings her to see two looters hanged by their wrists after being severely tortured. The gunman gives Lee and Jessie the option to give him the call to execute them. Lee just asks him to pose alongside the men for a picture before he kills them off-screen. When they hit the road, Jessie complains that she didn't capture a single photo because she was too traumatized by what she saw and wonders if she should have helped. Lee tells her to get used to the violence, as it will only get worse. Jessie can't help to cry but promises to be braver in the future. The group stops at an abandoned mall so that Jessie can take pics of a downed helicopter, while also apologizing to Lee about if she seems like a load to travel with, but Lee doesn't care. Lee asks her where she got her camera, and Jessie explains that it used to belong to her dad. Jessie says that he's currently hiding in his farm pretending nothing is happening, which bothers her. Jessie wonders if Lee would photograph her if she ever got shot, but Lee lets her reach her own conclusions. At night, they sit and watch the gunfire going on in the distance as it lights up the sky. Joel tells Lee they should check it out as they might get some good pictures, but Lee says that they are not going as it is dark and is very dangerous, but says they will check it out in the morning if they are still fighting. Joel then comforts Jessie and tells her that it is normal if she doesn't get any sleep after what she saw, and tells her that he will be close if she gets too scared. The next day they go to area with the gunfire they saw last night. Lee and Jessie starts to take a tons of pictures as the two groups continue to fire at each other with a guy stuck in the middle. A team throws out a smoke grenade to offer some cover. However, as soon as the guy tries to run, he gets shot and Lee takes picture of the moment. His teammates drag him to safety and try their best to stop the bleeding. Unfortunately, the man won't stop bleeding and dies as Jessie takes photos of the whole process. Afterwards, the team breach the enemy's building and the journalists follow them. Inside, they found one of the shooters as he is heavily injured and begs them to help him, but the men execute him on sight. Jessie can't help staring as the rest of the men continue searching. By the end, Joel is laughing with one of the soldiers as if it was a normal work day. The soldiers capture a few enemies and takes them to be executed with a machine gun as Jessie takes pictures as the men get shredded to pieces. The four then arrive at a refugee camp. In the middle of relaxing and feeding themselves, Lee and Jessie continue to bond while Jessie develops photos that she took during the shooting earlier. Jessie brings up the start of Lee's career, where she got the perfect shot of an Antifa massacre event. Lee tells Jessie that she took great photos. The group then spends the night in good company. The next day, their journey continues as they see the never-ending death and destruction by the roads. Jessie takes more pictures, putting the faces of her friends on the shots for extra impact. Continuing their journey, the four stop in a town that appears unaffected by the ongoing war, as people are seen living peacefully. The group stops to change clothes, and Joel asks the shop owner if they are aware that there is a civil war going on across the country, but the woman tells Joel that the town is choosing to ignore it and that it is for the better. Outside, Sammy tells Lee that they are being watched by armed men on a rooftop. He also says this life wouldn't have suited them because it's boring. Continuing their journey, the group arrive at a circus decoration in the middle of the road with a dead man laying on the floor. Lee checks with her camera if there is anything suspicious, but couldn't find anything as all is quiet. As they drive forward, they are being shot by a sniper. Joel quickly drives his car to take cover. There, they see two soldiers laying on the floor trying to shoot the sniper. Joel quickly runs towards them and nearly gets shot by the other sniper. Joel asks them if they are soldiers of the Western Front, but they tell him they are not on any side, as they are just trying to shoot somebody who's trying to shoot them. The soldiers then manages to shoot the sniper and the group continues their journey. Later on, the group sees that a car is speeding to catch up to them. Fearing the worst, they are surprised that it's Joel's reporter friends from Hong Kong, Tony and Bohai. Tony climbs in through the window of the group's van for fun, and Jesse does the same, going into Tony's car with Bohai. Bohai and Jesse then speeds off. Lee starts to get worried as Jesse and Bohai's car is nowhere to be found. As they starts to go further, they almost collided with a military truck, which is going on the opposite direction. Lee manages to stop the car before they crash on one of the trees. They drive further up until they see that the other car has stopped with both doors wide open. As they go to investigate, they see both Jesse and Bohai are captured by Loyalist gunmen. The Loyalist gunmen have been murdering anyone who is passing by and dumping them into shallow graves. Sammy points out that these men aren't normal soldiers because they're clearly doing this in secret and that they don't want anyone to see them. But Joel thinks that their press IDs can keep them safe everywhere. Lee, Joel and Tony goes to talk to the men while Sammy stays. They approach the gunmen, and Joel explains they are just journalists who is passing by and that Jesse and Bohai are with them. The leader gunman asks where they were going, and Joel says that they are going to Charlottesville to cover a story about a university opening again. The head gunman then mockingly shoots Bohai dead without any hesitation, leaving Jesse in shock and making Tony cry. Joel, while trying to keep himself together, tries again to explain they are Americans and doesn't want any problems. The head gunman then asks him what kind of American they are, if they are Central or South. Joel says he is from Florida, and the man then asks the traumatized Jessie where she's from, which she says she is from Missouri, and Lee says she is from Colorado. The man then says it's American, and then goes to ask Tony where he's from. Tony says he is from Hong Kong, and the head gunman shoots him dead. The rest of the group starts to panic as they desperately begs the man for mercy. Before they get executed, Sammy arrives with the car and hits the soldiers with it, causing them to fall in the grave. Jessie accidentally falls as well and she has to climb on the pile of bodies to get out. Joel helps her to climb up and they get back in the car to drive away, as the rest of the gunmen shoots at them as they drive away. Escaping the gunmen, Jesse and Joel have breakdowns, and Jesse vomits in the back while Sammy tells Lee and Joel he can no longer drive because he's been shot. Joel takes over the car and drives until they make their way to a Western Forces military base in Charlottesville, driving through a burning forest. After a while, the group arrive at the WF military base, to which they also have their own flag with 2 stars. Unfortunately, Sammy has already died from his wounds, and Joel has a breakdown from the loss of his friends. The group meets with a British reporter named Anya. It is said that some loyalist generals have already surrendered, which makes all the trouble they went through, including losing Sammy, incredibly pointless. Jesse and Lee then have a private conversation, where Jesse explains that she have never been this scared her entire life and also never felt more alive. The group then sees as a heavy convoy of WF soldiers starts to head towards Washington, D.C. Lee, Joel, and Jesse join the WF as they make their way into Washington with intent to storm the White House and get their hands on the president. Once they enter the war zone, Jesse becomes as ready as ever to get her pictures, while Lee remains in shocked numbness to what's going on. As the WF soldiers attack the Lincoln Memorial, the journalists follow the soldiers through the area. WF soldiers manages to gain the upper hand as they call out an air support to clear out a path for them, and starts to take over many critical areas as they establish a line of defense against the loyalist soldiers. The journalists hide behind an armored car to follow the story. Suddenly, one of WF's armored car gets hit by an RPG, causing it to explode. Jesse then takes a picture of one of WF's soldier who got engulfed in flames. The journalists take cover as the WF tanks mow through the remaining loyalist forces before they make their way to the heavily guarded White House. The Secret Service appears to be taking the president with them, but the soldiers manages to stop the president's car. They start to unload a dozen bullets on the car in an attempt to kill the president. Lee knows that the president is not in the car and that he is still in the White House. The journalists makes their way to the White House. The president car finally manages to open and the president is in fact not in the car. The soldiers then makes their way to the White House and manages to catch up to the journalists. They warn them not to get in their way again. As they move further in, they found a negotiator who explains that she wants to negotiate the president's surrender, asking for him to be taken to a neutral country. However, the soldiers did not agree with the term and shoots her dead as Jesse and Lee takes a picture of the process. As they continue to move further, they are met by more armed Secret Service agents. A heavy shootout ensues as the soldiers tries to take the Secret Service agents out. Jesse manages to take several good pictures of both the Secret Service agents and the WF soldiers. The WF soldiers manages to kill several Secret Service agents as they continue to move forward. Jesse then takes a big risk by standing in the middle of a hallway for a picture and nearly gets shot. But Lee pushes her out and takes a bullet for her. Jesse ends up taking multiple pictures of Lee's final moments. Afterwards, Jesse is left in shock for a few seconds before she and Joel get into the Oval Office, where the WF soldiers hold the president down. Joel, filled with anger over losing his friends, then kneels to ask the president for a single quote. He begs Joel not to let the soldiers kill him, to which Joel responds with "that'll do." The president is then executed, and Jesse gets a great shot of it.